Hello. Today we're going to continue our work in maths, and we're going to be looking at patterns. So the first type of pattern that we want to look at is one involving shapes. So if I look at my situation here, I have a list of different shapes. I have a square, and then I have a circle, and then I have a triangle, and then I have a square and a circle again. So if I'm told that this bunch of pictures or this bunch of shapes is forming a pattern going this way, we always read left to right, then the next symbol that I would expect to see would be my triangle, which I'll draw to the best of my ability. So my next shape in my list would be a triangle, because I'm going square, then circle, then triangle, square, then circle, then triangle. So my first term, so T1 is my first term, would be a square. My second term would be a circle. My third term would be a triangle. My fourth term is a square again. My fifth term is a circle again, and then my sixth term, which I would call T6 for my sixth term, would be a triangle, and my seventh term would then be a square. Now let's look at this moving forward. So what would be my ninth term? Well, we could just draw out the list, but we should be able to spot what's going on here. Every third term, we just repeat again. So every third term is going to be a triangle, and every fourth term is going to be a square, and so on. So we have T9 would be, we've gone through one complete cycle when we're at T3. We've gone through another complete cycle and we're back to a triangle when we're at T6. So the next complete cycle will be at T9. So T9 then would have to be a triangle. Now, let's do a slightly larger number and see if we can see what we need to do. What would be the 22nd term in our list? Well, if we think about the pattern that's going on, every third term we get back to a triangle. So let's see if we could use that to our advantage. Every third term, so we'd be going through how many complete cycles to get up to the 22nd term? Well, we'd go through up to T21 would be 7 complete cycles, and then we're the next one after that. So the 21st term in our sequence would be or in our pattern would be a triangle, and then we know the next one after that is going to be a square. So T22 then would have to be a square. And that's how we work out these questions. Look at the pattern, see when it's repeating, we figure out how many complete cycles we've gone through, and then if we need to, we can figure out what the term would have to be after that. So that's one type of pattern question. Another type that we can come across is one like we've got here. So our first term, T1, has 1 dot in it. Our second term has 3 dots. Our third term has 5 dots. And our fourth term has 7 dots. So I'm going to rewrite the numbers here. I have 1, 3, 5, and 7. Well, this pattern isn't repeating itself like the last one was, but there is still a pattern to it. What's changing each time? Well, I can see to get from 1 to 3, I'm adding 2 on. To get from 3 to 5, I'm adding 2 on. And to get from 5 to 7, I'm adding 2 on. So to get between each of my terms, I add 2. Therefore, what would be the 5th term in my pattern? Well, I'd add 2 on to 7. So I'd have 7 plus 2, and I'd get my 5th term would have to be 9. And what would be my 6th term? Well, I'd take my 5th term and I'd add 2 to it, and I'd end up at 11. And that's how my pattern would continue on. And later on in the chapter we're going to look at how we can deal with these types of patterns a little bit more deeply. We can do a lot of good maths with this type of pattern, and we're going to come back to it later. But for now we can see with this type of pattern we're not repeating like we were here, we're adding on the same amount each time to get between our different terms. Now these are two more examples where I didn't give you pictures because not all of the time we're going to deal with pictures. So let's see what we can see with our pattern here. Well, here I can see I have a list of numbers and they're getting bigger. How are they getting bigger? I start at 5 is my T1, and my T2, and my T3, and my T4, first term, second term, third term, and fourth term. How am I getting from my first to my second term? I'm adding on 4. How am I getting from my second to my third term? I'm adding on 4, and third to fourth term, I'm adding on 4. So I can see that this pattern is just adding on 4 each time. Well then, how am I going to get my fifth term? I'm going to take 17 and I'm going to add 4 to it, and I'm going to get 21. So the next term in my list would be 21. Let's take a look here. I have my first term in this question is going to be 3. My second term in this question is 1. My third term is going to be -1. And my fourth term is going to be -3. So let's see if there's a pattern going between these numbers here. How do I get from first term to second term? I subtract 2. How do I get from my second to my third term? I subtract 2. And the same again, I subtract 2, getting from my -1 to my -3, my third term to my fourth term. So what would be my fifth term in this situation? Well, I'd take what I had for my fourth term, -3, and I'd subtract 2 away from it, and I'd end up down at -5. And my sixth term, I'd have -5, I'd -2 away from it, and I'd end up down at -7. And we can see how these patterns would work. The fifth term would be -5, the sixth term would be -7, and it would keep going. So that's how our different number patterns work, and that's what we need for now.